So this is my story part 2. Thanks to everybody that watched last week and sent us a message to encourage us. I had this idea just for, obviously we're in a time of lockdown and there's a lot of people who are attending church online that don't really know me. So I thought, well, why don't I put my story out for everybody to connect with? And also for those in the church that maybe haven't heard some of this stuff, then I hope you can join in. We're going to take a run back to View Park to do the next part of my story. Obviously View Park was quite an influential place in me growing up and the people that I met there, and I want to think about that today, about the influence that people can have on our lives. And I want you to be thinking about the influence that you might be having in someone's life even when you don't realise it or recognise it. So let's head to View Park now and let me tell you first of all about a couple whose heart was to pray for our area and ask God to move, and we'll hear about them now. David and Jean Wood, along with Jean's sister Betty, lived in the houses behind me here, and they had been praying for years that God would send somebody to come and love this community and tell them how much God loves them too. So their prayers were answered when the team from Glow came, and that was how I found faith. Davy and Jean's daughter Liz was actually my primary one school teacher in Burnhead Primary, and we've had a long association with our family since there, with David and Maureen and Keith and Senga encouraging us in our faith and in our ministry over the years. The influence of this family, along with others who loved this community in View Park, made an impact on lives that last till this day. If you had asked me when I was growing up what I wanted to be when I was older, my answer would have been, I want to be a lorry driver. Ever since I was wee, I've had an obsession with driving, and that's partly because of my Uncle Bobby, who actually lives just in that house right there. My Uncle Bobby's an amazing guy, and when I was younger he used to take me out when I was a teenager for runs in the truck when he was working, and we would go down the borders, we would go to Edinburgh, and as a reward he would let me have a shot of driving the truck. And I think that's where that passion came from. For the first time he let me drive his car in the Great Mills, if you remember that, in Burtonshaw's car park. So when I was growing up, that was my desire. I thought, I'm going to be a lorry driver. That's what I want to do. I want to travel the country. I want to be just like what my Uncle Bobby was. But little did I know that God would have different plans, and he would take me on a completely different journey. When I was growing up, I wasn't the most academic. I don't know if it was because I couldn't do the work or because I've always had this fear of failure. And school was difficult for me. I actually found it really hard. But the investment that David had put in teaching me guitar actually helped me when I got to secondary school. This is the school that I went to, Uddingston Grammar. And one of the amazing things was that the music department is what got me to come to school. I would go to English and maths and science and everything else because I knew that I could go to the music department and enjoy the skills there. And again, that was just another thing that maybe David never realised it would have such an impact in my life and such an influence in my life. But when I left here, I decided I was going to go and study music technology at Coatbridge College. Again, I loved this passion for music, of doing stuff, and the learning then came on the back of that. But again, I was influenced by a simple lesson once a week in a living room teaching me guitar that would then bring me here and keep me in school and then take me to college to study the music technology course. Because I lacked so much confidence at school, I only actually took one higher, and that was, surprise, surprise, in music. And I managed to get an A for that, and that was a massive sense of achievement. It actually gave me a boost. And that would then bring me to come to Coatbridge College and to study this course in music technology. It was a year's course, and I quickly realised that studying here was great, and a lot of the skills that I'm even using today I learned here. But what I discovered was that actually I didn't want to do this as a career. So in the summer holidays I decided that I was going to try and get a job, and one of the guys in our church, Steve Ellicott, was a director in a company in Bellsill called Calcarb. Now he had got a lot of guys in View Park who'd come along to the church, jobs in Calcarb, gave them an opportunity to succeed, an opportunity for employment. And he'd actually got my dad a job when he had been unemployed for a long time after being made redundant. So Steve had said, John, why don't you come and work for the summer in Calcarb? It'll be the dirtiest job in the dirtiest area, but I think you could actually come and do that for a couple of months. He did also say, if you're here longer than that, then we'll have words. But a couple of days before I started, I got a phone call from Calcarb to say, John, you've been promoted You're moving to the paint shop, even though I hadn't worked a day, and I got an opportunity to go and work there. I met some amazing people. I got to have some amazing conversations with guys double my age about things of faith, about things that they were going through. Bear in mind at that time, I'm 18 years old, but actually God to take me to Calcarb for a reason. I remember my first day there, and I got no chance to hide my faith in the workplace because my dad worked there, and he took me into the bothy with all the guys and says, "This is my boy, he's a Christian, make sure you look after him." So thanks for that, Dad. There was no room to hide. But again, I ended up being in Calcarb for 2 years. I loved my job, I really did. In fact, as part of a break during the time I was at Cardiff, which I'll talk about, I actually went back and worked there for a summer to help train. My boss at that time, wee Jimmy, said to me, "John, you're off your head, leaving a work to go and try and go to college where you've got to pay and you're relying on God to provide." And he says, "John, I'm going to keep your job open for you for 9 months because I think it's all going to go wrong." You know, I really appreciated that for Jimmy, but I knew that God was going to take me to Glow anyway. And you know, it's amazing to think, even in those days in Calcarb, that God was able to use me in that place in a simple way. And I'm thankful for that. So leaving Calcarb was a massive step of faith, but I knew the church were behind me. I knew there were individuals supporting me, and this was going to be an adventure again that I was going to take, still with that fear of failure. The academic stuff freaked me out, but I was going to go to a place where I knew that people loved me and cared for me, would support me, but I was going to learn, but also get a chance to put my faith in practice. This is where I came to study in September 1999. It's also where, in this car park, I would actually ask Fiona if she would date me, and then we would be eventually married in the auditorium behind us. This is where Fiona came to study in our first year of marriage as well, because she felt the call of God to study at Tilsley, to prepare us for the time we were going to be in Johnston. She wanted to make sure she was equipped as well. So Glow has a special place in our hearts. It was a Glow church plant that I found Jesus. It was Glow that I would come and study and learn in that year's course, which wasn't just about the academics. It was about putting into practice what I had learned here and going to places in Glasgow like Loaves and Fishes, helping at Selkirk Street at the Monday Club, getting an opportunity to go back to View Park and put the things into practice that I'd learned here. So this journey of faith that I've been on has been both about learning but about putting it into practice, and that's the kind of guy I am if you know me. Being here at Glow was a special year. I met many lifelong friends. I got to go to Italy. I never thought I would ever go abroad. Never forget that moment on the aeroplane. Every eye was on me because they were wondering what my reaction would be as we took off. But going with Robert and Muriel Hamilton, with Patrizio, and actually seeing the work that they were doing in Naples and seeing God was moving in the wee church in Fuorigrotta. But then coming back here and wondering what was going to happen next. We had an opportunity at Glow to go on a 3-week placement, and I had no idea where I was going to go. And one of my friends, Carolyn, who was a placement coordinator, said, "John, why don't you think about going to Wales? There's a church called Thornhill Church, which is in Cardiff, and I think you would love to go and spend some time there." Then I realised that one of the guys I was actually going to meet, who was the community pastor there, was a guy who had been to View Park on mission, a guy called Alex Wilson. And when I went to Cardiff on that 3-week placement, after a week, Alec came to me and says, "John, would you consider coming and being on placement here? Come and work here for the church. It could be like a second year option, on the job training. The church will help support you, but give you opportunities to serve." At that point, I had no idea what that was going to look like. But actually, God took me to Cardiff for 2 years. It was a crazy time leaving Scotland, a crazy time leaving everything behind. I thought I'd already done that, leaving Calcarb to come here. But again, I had to put into practice the words that my friend Ian had said to me when I was in a wee bit of doubt about what the future would look like. Ian simply said to me all along, "John, just trust." This is a lesson that I carry with me every single day. When I don't know what the future looks like, just trust. When I don't know where my provision's going to come from, because we lived for years not knowing where one penny was going to come from, but God provided. In fact, I'll give you an example of that. When I wanted to study here at Tyldesley, it was going to cost £2,600. And the wee church at View Park, some people sacrificed holidays. Some people gave out the little that they had. And I'll never forget that day when I was chairing the service as a young guy, and they says, John, we've got the pledge for how we're going to support you in this year from Glow. I thought it might be a couple of £100. And you can imagine how I felt when the whole £2,600 was met by a tiny wee church of people who didn't have much but were willing to give it to invest in my life. Again, I am so thankful for my friends and my church family that made it possible to come here. Because what happened next? God was going to take me from then till this very point. And He's still training me and He's still teaching me right up until now. So completing the course at Tyldesley was a huge achievement and a great foundation for me as I then went to Cardiff in the year 2000 to go and work with that church down there. My first post in ministry, and it was so exciting, and I'm going to tell you about that next week. But the idea of going into full-time ministry, as much as it excited me, I was also full of fear. Like I said earlier on, this fear of failure was something that has gripped me, and it actually still affects me till now. But I'll never forget the moment that I was at the Glow commissioning service at the conference down south, where all the missionaries from all over the world came and met together. You know, I was looking after the kids, and we were watching The Prince of Egypt, which is a cartoon on the story and the life of Moses. And there was a passage that came to my mind from Exodus chapter 3 and Exodus chapter 4 that really reminded me, as part of that movie, that even though I was full of excuses, even though I would always try to make up why God should send somebody else, why there was always somebody else better, at that point I had to be reminded that it was going to be in His power. In Exodus chapter 3 and Exodus chapter 4, it tells us about Moses and how God called him to lead the people out of slavery, out of Egypt. And for Moses at that point, this was a big deal. And we actually read in that passage that it talks about what Moses said to God. And I want to just look at that briefly just now as we finish tonight. It says, but Moses protested again. I wonder if you've ever protested against something that God's asked you to do. It says, look, they won't believe me. They won't do what I tell them. They'll just say, the Lord never appeared to you. Then the Lord asked him, what have you there in your hand? A shepherd's staff, Moses replied. Throw it down in the ground, the Lord told him. So Moses threw it down and it became a snake. Moses was terrified, so he turned and ran away. Then the Lord told him, take hold of its tail. So when he reached out and grabbed it, it became a shepherd's staff again. Perform this sign and they will believe you, the Lord told him. Then they will realise that the Lord, the God of their ancestors, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, of Jacob, has really appeared to you. God says to him, put your hand in the inside of your robe, and Moses did so. And when he took it out again, his hand was as white as snow with leprosy. Now put your hand back into your robe, the Lord said to Moses. And Moses did, and when he took it out, this time it was as healthy as the rest of his body. If they don't believe the first miraculous sign, they will believe the second, the Lord said. And if they don't believe you even after these two signs, then take some of the river Nile and pour it out on the dry ground. And when you do it, it will turn into blood. Here is 3 miracles that God has promised for Moses. And even at that, Moses says, oh Lord, I'm not a good speaker. I never have been, and I'm not now. Even after you have spoken to me, I am clumsy with words. And you know, that's how I feel. I'm not the best with words, I'm not the best preacher, but I recognise that God takes the simple words that I have, and when He speaks through them, then that's when we see the lives are changed. God says, who is it that makes the mouths? Who is it that makes people so they can speak or not speak, hear or not hear, see or not see? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go and do as I have told you. I will help you speak well, and I will tell you what to say. But then it says, Moses pleaded, Lord, please send someone else. Folks, I wonder tonight if you need to stop making excuses and see God has designed and created you to the person that He created you to be, where He wants to send you, for the purpose that He has for you, in the power and for His glory. And that's what happened here. God took Moses and was going to do amazing things. He gave him help along the way, and I've been thankful for all the help that I've received through every individual who's influenced me every step of the way. There's too many to mention. But if you've been part of my life and helped shape me as an individual, helped shape my faith, if you've invested in me, I want to say thank you tonight for everything that you've done for me, that I could be here today. And next week we're going to look at the journey from Cardiff to Cumbernauld. Now I don't think I'll be able to go on location there, it's a bit too far away. But I'm excited to tell you how God led me to this point to serve you here in this community of Cumbernauld. So God, I thank you tonight again that I could share a bit of my story, about how you have brought me on a journey that I could never imagine. Thank you, God, for all those people in my life from the early days who have inspired me and influenced me to become the person that you've created me to be. Help us, Lord, to stop making excuses and trust you. Help us to stop comparing ourselves with others and see that you can do amazing things in and through us. And Lord, I pray tonight that if there's somebody who's watching, who's maybe been holding back or putting barriers up, who've been saying, I'm not sure God would want to use somebody like me, let them see somebody like Moses and see how you did amazing things and the journey that you took him on to lead those people. Even when he'd messed up in the past, God, you had a future for him. And thank you for that promise tonight in your name. Amen.